You think you know the man lying next to you every night? You think you built a life, an empire, on love and trust. But picture this. I walked into a coffee shop for a client meeting, and I saw my husband whispering to his ex. I sat behind them. I listened, and I realized the life I knew was just the first draft for a plan I had no part in. This wasn't just about an affair. It was the theft of my entire life. My name is Alara Vance. Until this morning, I was a name synonymous with sustainable design, an architect who believed you could build a better world. This morning, I was just a woman running late. I pushed open the heavy glass door of the Alpenglow roastery, the air inside a stark contrast to the crisp Denver morning. It was 9:15, and the place was humming. The aggressive, almost burnt smell of their signature dark roast mingled with the cloying sweetness of vanilla syrup. I scanned the room for my client, a man investing millions in a new urban project. Then I saw him, in the darkest corner booth, the one shielded by a sad-looking palm, sat my husband, Julian Croft. He was supposed to be in Boulder, closing a new round of funding. He was not in Boulder. He was leaning in close, his entire focus on the woman across from him, Sabrina Hayes, his ex, the one he had sworn was just a footnote from his college days, a ghost he had long since forgotten. They were not sitting like old friends. They were sitting like conspirators, their heads bent together, their voices a low murmur. A cold, sharp instinct I didn't know I possessed took over. My client wasn't here yet. I pulled my phone from my coat pocket, my thumb hovering over his contact. My fingers moved, typing a message I would later marvel at for its clinical detachment. Something urgent has come up. A structural emergency on site. My deepest apologies. We must reschedule. I sent it. I did not wait for a reply. There was an empty two-top directly behind their booth, separated only by a tall, ridiculously large fiddle-leaf fig. Its waxy leaves provided a perfect screen. I slid into the chair, my back to Julian. I could feel the faint vibration of his voice through the booth's thin upholstery. The hiss of the steam wand cut off, and in the sudden quiet, his voice sliced through the air. Just one more week, Sab. Be patient. Once the Dubai Fund signs next week, we can finally announce Nexus Terra, and we can leave her behind. A clean break. Leave her behind. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. I stared at the wood grain on my table, suddenly unable to breathe. The burnt coffee smell was suffocating. I'm just worried, Julian. Sabrina's voice, thin and anxious. Her name, Alara Vance. That is sustainable architecture. They think they're investing in her reputation. A low, guttural laugh vibrated through the seat. It was a sound I had never heard him make. It was ugly. Her name is built on her designs, Julian scoffed. And we have those. Every last file, every schematic. My blood turned to ice. This wasn't a confession of an affair. This was something else, something worse. My hand was shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I fumbled with the screen lock, my fingers numb and stupid. I found the voice memo app. I pressed the red button. I slid the phone onto the upholstered seat beside me. Screen dark. Microphone angled toward the gap beneath the fig leaf. "You're sure the transfer of the IP is complete?" Sabrina asked. 100%, Julian said, his voice thick with a pride I didn't recognize. "The client lists, the material patents, all of it. It's all securely nested in the new holding company. By the time she realizes, Nexus Terra will be fully operational in Dubai, and will be untouchable. The material patents." He meant Solus Core, my invention. The revolutionary composite material I had spent 5 years developing in a lab. The breakthrough that was the entire basis of our company's success. "I still don't see how she let you do it," Sabrina murmured. "She's supposed to be brilliant." Another laugh, this one shorter, crueler. It hit me like a physical blow. "She's brilliant at drawing, at theory. She's an artist. She thinks business is about pretty drawings and saving the planet. She's too trusting." He paused. I heard the distinct clink of a ceramic cup hitting a saucer. "She never reads what she signs." The words echoed in the sudden silence of my mind. The documents, the mountain of paper he'd dropped on my desk 6 months ago. Tax optimizations, he had called them. IP protection restructuring. He said the lawyers needed them signed by end of day. I was buried in the middle of a design competition, stressed and overworked. I trusted him. I had signed every page. They weren't just leaving me. They were erasing me. They were planning to gut my company, steal my life's work, and leave me holding the empty shell. I sat there, frozen, listening to the man I loved meticulously describe the architecture of my destruction. I stared at the black, untouched coffee on my table. A waitress had poured it 10 minutes ago, assuming I was a paying customer and not just a trespasser on someone else's life. The liquid was cold now, a perfect, still surface. I saw Chicago in it. I saw the office on the 62nd floor I'd given up. I had been in line for partner at one of the most prestigious architecture firms in the world. I was 33 years old. It was an unprecedented climb. Then Julian came. He had this intoxicating vision. Denver, a new frontier, a boutique firm where we could be agile, innovative, and build things that mattered. "Why build their legacy, Ilara?" he had whispered to me, "when we can build ours?" So I walked away from Chicago. I cashed in the inheritance my grandfather had left me. Every last dollar. I poured it into Vance Croft Designs. My name first. A small concession I had insisted on. My connections, cultivated over decades by my family, became our client list. I was the creative engine. I was the one who spent 3 sleepless years in a rented lab, tinkering with polymers and sustainable composites until I finally created Solace Core. It was my breakthrough, a building material that was self-healing, carbon negative, and stronger than any concrete. It was the reason billionaires and sovereign wealth funds were suddenly paying attention to a small firm in Denver. I was the artist, the innovator. Julian was the businessman. He handled the contracts, the investors, the financials. "You just focus on being brilliant," he would say, kissing my forehead. "Leave the boring spreadsheets to me." And I did. I lived in the world of blueprints and molecular structures. When he complained about my unrealistic research spending, I found ways to cut back. When he lamented that I was too focused on the art and not enough on the profit, I assumed he was just being the pragmatic counterweight I needed. He was protecting our future. The memory surfaced, sharp and sickening. 6 months ago, I was in the studio, running on caffeine and sheer willpower, trying to meet the deadline for the Singapore Global Design Competition. I hadn't slept in 2 days. Julian had come in late, well after midnight. He placed a stack of documents on my desk that was at least 3 inches thick, bound in blue. "Babe, I'm so sorry to do this," he'd said, his voice a perfect imitation of sympathetic exhaustion. "The lawyers need these signed by morning. It's just the tax optimization we talked about, and that new IP protection structure to shield Solace Core." I had barely looked up from my monitor. "Julian, I can't. Not tonight. I'm drowning." I know. "I already flagged all the signature spots. It will take you 2 minutes. Please, it's to protect us, to protect your work." He had made it sound like an act of service. So I did it, exhausted, trusting, and desperate to get back to my work. I scrawled Ilara Vance on 20 different pages without reading a single sentence. A sound pulled me back to the Alpenglow roastery. It was Sabrina, her voice thin with a new anxiety. "Julian, are you absolutely sure those trust consolidation papers will hold up? She's not stupid. When she finds out..." The scrape of Julian's chair was loud in the quiet of my head. He was leaning back, confident. "She's smart," he corrected, his voice a cold, flat thing I had never heard before. "But she's not meticulous. Those papers were perfect. They didn't just protect the IP, they transferred the patents. Every patent for Solus Core, plus all our active client contracts, moved seamlessly into a parent corporation. A parent corporation that I am the sole officer of. She did not read the fine print. She handed us everything. Ilara. The shock was a physical thing. It had flooded my system, a tidal wave of adrenaline and ice. Now it was receding, and in its place, a terrible, sterile clarity. The world snapped into sharp, painful focus. The hiss of the steam wand, the faint scratch of a chair on the floor, the low murmur of my husband's voice. My phone, resting on the fabric of the booth, was a black hole, pulling in the truth. I did not move. I did not breathe. I just listened. The presentation is locked, Julian said. I've used her branding template, the exact fonts she insists on. The fund won't know the difference until it's too late. Nexus Terra, Sabrina said, the name rolling off her tongue like she was tasting a fine wine. It's a beautiful name. It's a great name, he countered, and a great plan. The Dubai Royal Fund is ready to deploy. We are not talking about small-time venture capital, SAB. We are talking hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe $1 billion over the first 5 years. To build the sustainable city, Sabrina added, her voice breathy with an excitement that made my stomach clench. Exactly, our sustainable city, built on her Solus Core designs. I almost laughed. It bubbled in my throat. A hysterical, silent thing. He was pitching my dream. The net zero desert city I had designed. The one Julian himself had told me was too ambitious and a financial black hole. And they are fine with me, Sabrina asked, a flicker of that old anxiety returning. As head of creative, I mean. I'm just an accountant. Darling, they do not care. Julian soothed. You are the face. I am the CEO. The creative work is already done. We just have to repackage it. Alara Vance designed the product, but Julian Croft is building the empire. And Vance Croft, Sabrina asked, her voice dropping. What happens to it? Vance Croft, Julian said, and I could hear the smile in his voice, the sheer, unadulterated pleasure, is about to become a very interesting case study in overleveraging. I have spent the last year shifting all the viable assets out and maximizing the debt load. New office leases, equipment loans. I even drew down that massive $500,000 line of credit she was so proud of securing. The R&D money. He had told me it was for a new polymer printer. My heart hammered against my ribs, a dull, painful thud. When the Dubai deal hits next week, he continued, we dissolve the partnership. She will be left holding the bag. A company shell that owes over $3 million and has 0 assets. She will be bankrupt by Christmas. They were both quiet for a moment, savoring the image. We have to move fast on the house, though, Sabrina said, her voice hardening. I cannot stand you living there one more night. The house. My house. The one I had designed from the ground up, with its passive solar windows and the reclaimed timber beams I had sourced myself. The house I had owned free and clear before we were married. The one Julian had convinced me to add to our joint assets to simplify our estate. Already handled, Julian said, dismissive. The papers are on my desk. Refinancing. I told her. It is actually a full power of attorney for the sale. Once the deal is done, I will sign, and we list it. We will be on a plane to Dubai before she has even served the eviction notice. There was another pause. Perhaps Sabrina felt a single microscopic flicker of doubt. God, Julian, it is so final. It is business, he said sharply. Look, I will tell her. After the signing, when the money is secure, I will be gentle about it. It will be a shock, I know. But Alara is strong. She is a survivor. His voice dropped into that false, sincere tone he used when he wanted to comfort me. She'll start over. Start over, like I was some college graduate, like he was not taking a wrecking ball to the foundations of my entire world. They were gathering their things. I heard the rustle of coats, the scrape of a bag. I still cannot believe it worked, Sabrina said, her voice full of genuine awe. I mean, I found the vulnerabilities in the financials, but you are the one who actually made her sign. We are a good team, Julian said. You were right, though. That first audit you did was the key. I froze. Audit. She never even questioned me, Sabrina said. And now her voice was hard, the anxiety gone, replaced by the same cold pride I had heard in Julian. Hiring me as an external financial consultant over a year ago. Sabrina Hayes Financial Solutions. She just signed the checks. She thought I was just some anonymous bean counter. It hit me. S.H. Financial Solutions. The checks I approved every single month. I thought it was a firm. It was her. You spent 12 months auditing my own company. I whispered to the cold coffee in front of me. Sabrina continued. It took me months to map her spending, her assets, her intellectual property, to find the cleanest, most efficient way to gut the whole operation. She paid me a handsome fee to design her own bankruptcy. The best money we ever spent, Julian said. I heard him stand up, his chair scraping the floor. Come on, let's get out of here. I have got a wife to lie to. I watched their shadows move past the edge of the fig leaf. Julian's hand was on the small of her back. It was a gesture of familiar, casual ownership. He hadn't touched me like that in years. I heard the faint jingle of the bell on the front door, and they were gone. My hand, which I was surprised to find was perfectly steady, reached down to the upholstered bench beside me. I picked up my phone. I tapped the screen. The red bar vanished. The recording, 28 minutes and 42 seconds long, was saved. I sat there. I do not know for how long. The cafe hum returned, a dull roar. The waitress, the same one who had poured my coffee, walked by and gave me an impatient look. My cup was still full. It was black, cold, and untouched. I stared into it. I waited for the grief. I waited for the tears, the collapse, the part where the woman in the movie throws the cup against the wall. Nothing came. The shock had been a flash flood, violent and overwhelming, but now the water was receding, and it left behind not mud, but a bedrock of cold, clear ice. It was anger, but it was not hot. It was crystalline. It was precise. My phone lit up. A reminder. 9 a.m., client meeting, Mark Hamilton. I had only postponed him. I had not canceled. I looked at the name, then pressed call. He picked up on the second ring. Ilara, is everything okay? Your text sounded dire. I adjusted my voice, pitching it into the key of professional concern. Mark, my apologies. We have an urgent structural issue at the 16th Street site. A bitter, silent laugh caught in my throat. A structural issue. Yes, that was exactly it. The foundations were compromised. I'm on my way there now. I cannot in good conscience leave it. Good God, don't apologize, he said. All business. Safety first. Just tell me the building isn't going to fall down. I'm going to make sure it doesn't, I said. My team will send new times. Thank you for your understanding. I hung up. I stood. My legs were solid beneath me. I pulled a $20 bill from my wallet and left it on the table. It more than covered the coffee. I walked out of the Alpenglow roastery, the bright Denver sun hitting me like a physical slap. He thought I was an artist. He had said it himself. She's too trusting. She thinks business is about pretty drawings. He mistook my focus for naivety. He mistook my trust for weakness. He thought my art was a soft, emotional thing. He forgot what an architect is. An architect is not just an artist. An architect is an engineer. An artist knows the value of the original. An engineer knows its structural integrity. An engineer knows exactly how much load a beam can take before it fails, and knows precisely where to cut to make the whole thing come down. He was not an architect. He was just a cheap copy. I drove home. My body performed the motions, but my mind was already miles ahead, drafting new plans. I pulled into the driveway of my house. My house. The one I had designed. The one I had paid for. The one he was planning to sell from under me. I walked inside. The house was empty. Silent. He was still with her. Good. I walked straight past the kitchen, past the floating staircase I was so proud of, and went directly to my studio. I closed the heavy, soundproofed door. I turned the deadbolt. The click echoed in the silence. It was the first true sound of the day. I sat at my desk. I plugged my phone into my workstation. I dragged the audio file, the 28-minute recording, into a new, encrypted email. I sent it. Then, I picked up my phone and made a call. It rang once, twice, a sharp, fast, New York voice answered. "You'd better be on fire." "Camilla!" The energy on the other end of the line shifted in a nanosecond. The frantic, dismissive tone vanished, replaced by a focused, dangerous calm. "Ilara, what's wrong? You sound different." "I am," I said. "Check your encrypted email. I just sent you a file." Camilla Russo, my best friend from MIT. While I had gone on to build structures, she had gone on to tear them down. She was the head of corporate fraud and IP litigation at the most ruthless firm in New York. They called her the Destroyer. I heard the rapid click-clack of her mechanical keyboard. "Okay, I've got it. An audio file." "What am I listening to?" "You are listening to my husband," I said, my voice flat, holding no tremor. "He is having an affair, but that is not the primary issue. He has been systematically, with the help of his ex, transferring all of my intellectual property, including the Solus Core patents, into a shell corporation he controls. He has leveraged Vancecroft to the hilt. He is closing a deal with a Dubai fund next week for hundreds of millions of dollars, using my designs. And he plans to leave me bankrupt and homeless by Christmas." There was total silence on the other end. Not shock. It was the silence of a predator that has just caught a scent. "I'm on the 3rd minute," Camilla said, her voice now a blade. "He just admitted to wire fraud and conspiracy." I waited. I could hear her typing, faster and faster. "Ilara," she said, "all business now. You do not talk to him. You do not cry. You do not act suspicious. You are the loving, supportive, brilliant but trusting wife he thinks you are. You are an artist. You go home. You kiss him. You ask him if his day of meetings went well. You do not deviate from the script. Do you understand me?" "I understand," I said. "Good, because I'm filing an emergency injunction. I'm getting a temporary restraining order on every asset you two share. I am going to freeze his accounts, his passport, and that shell company he's so proud of." "Camilla," I said, interrupting her. "What?" I looked at my reflection in the dark monitor. My eyes were clear. "I have a case for you," I said. "And I want everything." Camilla called back in less than 10 minutes. The forced calm was gone, replaced by a controlled, pressurized fury. Her voice was 3,000 miles of fiber optic cable, but it felt like she was in the room, pacing. "Ilara, I have listened to the entire file. I am looking at Colorado Revised Statute 18-9303. You are clean. It is a one-party consent state. You were a party to the conversation. You were present. That recording is not just admissible. It is a goddamned nuclear weapon." I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. "So you can file." She almost laughed. "File for what divorce, Ilara. This is not a divorce. This is not a domestic dispute. This is grand-scale corporate espionage. This is securities fraud. This is a criminal conspiracy to commit wire fraud, theft of intellectual property, and a flagrant breach of fiduciary duty. You are not a wronged wife in my book. You are a corporation, and you are the victim of a hostile takeover orchestrated from the inside." I sat up straighter in my studio chair. She was right. She was reframing the architecture of my own disaster. "So what is the plan?" "The plan," she said, "is that you do nothing. You are as of this moment, the greatest actress of your generation. You are the loving, supportive, slightly too trusting wife he has always believed you to be. You kiss him when he comes home. You ask him how his day was. You wish him luck on his meetings. You do not, under any circumstances, let the mask slip, not for 1 second. But the Dubai deal. It's next week, Camilla. They're signing. I know. And we are going to let them, she said, her voice dropping into a dangerous purr. I am drafting the emergency injunctions right now. Asset freezes, temporary restraining orders against every account, every entity. But we do not file. Not yet. We file on the day of the signing. We file 1 hour before he thinks his life is about to begin. We need him to walk into that room at full cocky bastard capacity. We need him to have all his ducks in a row, ready for the slaughter. Okay, I said, my voice steady. But I need one more thing, she said. The tape is the what? It's him confessing. It's beautiful. But to get a federal judge to sign an ex parte injunction that will freeze hundreds of millions of dollars without a hearing, I need the how. I need the paper. I need a document that proves he knew he was defrauding you when he put those tax optimization papers in front of you. I need to prove intent. He's slippery, Alara. He could argue he was just restructuring and you misunderstood. We need the smoking gun. I stared at the wall of my studio, at the row of awards, and my eyes landed on one, the Pritzker Fellowship, my first big award, the one that had launched my career. I think I know where it is, I said slowly. Julian was meticulous, but he was also arrogant. He backed up everything, not to the cloud, which he did not trust, but to a private, encrypted server kept in the AV closet of his home office. A black humming tower, his black box, he called it. Its password was the date I won the fellowship, April 162018. He said it years ago. He said it was the day he knew. Our future was secure. The irony was so bitter it almost choked me. I waited. I played the part. Julian came home just after 6. He was buoyant, energized. He kissed me, a dry, quick peck on the cheek that was all for show. He said the investor meetings were brutal but promising. He said he needed to go out again for a dinner with the finance guys. He was, of course, meeting her. The moment his car cleared the driveway, I was in his office. The door clicked shut. The server hummed. I sat at his desk, my fingers flying over the keyboard. April 162018. Access granted. The file directory was pristine. Vance Croft. Taxes. Personal. But it was too clean. I opened the search bar. I typed in the name I had heard only hours before. Nexus Terra. Nothing. I tried again. I searched for hidden files. And there it was. A single, grayed-out folder. In D-Day. My blood ran cold. For Nexus Terra. I clicked. It was not just a folder. It was a war room. It contained the entire battle plan, subfolders, financials, which held Sabrina's audits of my own company, legal, which held the wireframes for the Dubai Shell Corporation, marketing, which held my stolen designs, rebranded. And then I saw it, a folder labeled Trust Docs. I opened it. It contained drafts, Trust V1.docs, Trust V2.docs, and finally, Trust V7 Final for Alara, docs. It was the exact document I had signed, but there was one more file in that folder, an email chain he had saved as a PDF. It was between him and Sabrina, from the night he had given me the papers. Sabrina, are you sure she'll sign? It's a lot. Julian, she won't even look. She's buried in the Singapore pitch. She's been awake for 48 hours. She would sign a confession to murder right now if I told her it was a catering order. I'll get it done tonight. This was it. This was the how. This was the intent. This was the smoking gun Camilla needed. I was about to close the folder when I saw one more. A folder at the very bottom. Contingency. I opened it. It contained a single email thread. Sabrina. What if she finds out early? What if she contests it before we're liquid? Julian's reply was methodical, chilling. If she makes a move, we activate the contingency. I'll paint her as unstable, exhausted, a brilliant artist who's cracking under the pressure. I'll get her medical records. I'll have her declared incompetent. Her own friends have heard me say she's been overworking. I've laid the groundwork for months. If she fights, we do not just bankrupt her. We discredit her. We handle her. I was not just fighting for my company. I was fighting for my life. I packaged the entire NTD-Day folder, the email chains, the contingency plan, and Sabrina's fraudulent audits into a new encrypted file. I sent it to Camilla with a single line. This is the how. Her reply came back in less than 60 seconds. He's not just a thief. He's a sociopath. Ilara, this is everything. We can bury him under the prison. The judge will grant the injunctions in a heartbeat. I read her words, but I felt no relief. Camilla's plan was perfect. It was a legal masterpiece. It would freeze Julian, stop the bleeding, and, after months or years of litigation, it would reclaim what was mine. But it was a response. It was defense. And Julian's deal was not in months or years. It was next week. Camilla could win me a court battle, but I was in a war. And winning a war meant not just stopping the enemy, but routing him. It meant winning in the field. And my field was business. Julian's greatest miscalculation was not in underestimating my intelligence. It was in underestimating my network. He thought my connections were soft, built on dinner parties and shared ideals. He thought he was the shark, the one who handled the money, while I was the artist who just drew pretty pictures. He forgot that in our world, in the world of $100 million projects, reputation is not built on charm. It is built on delivery. And I had always delivered. My fingers moved over my phone. I scrolled past Camilla's number to a name that Julian had always been slightly intimidated by. Marcus Dubois. Marcus was old-school New York real estate. He had built half the skyline. He was a legend, a shark of a different, older, and far more terrifying species. He had been my father's best friend, and when my father died, Marcus had become my mentor. He treated me like a daughter. He was the one who had advised me against making Julian a 50-50 partner. Partnerships are for people with equal skin in the game. Kid. He had grumbled. Is he putting up his life's work or just his last name? I had not listened. I pressed call. He picked up on the first ring. Ilara, he boomed. His voice always sounded like it was coming from a wood-paneled office. You never call this late. Is that husband of yours finally taking you to Paris, or did you solve vertical farming? Hello, Marcus, I said, my voice perfectly level. I'm calling because I'm facing a hostile takeover, and I need your advice. The warmth in his voice vanished, replaced by a boardroom chill. Go on. I did not cry. I did not mention Sabrina. I did not frame it as a betrayal of my marriage. I framed it as a betrayal of my company. My partner, Julian Croft, I began, has, without my knowledge, created a new shell corporation in Dubai. He has used fraudulent documents, which I have in my possession, to transfer 100% of my intellectual property, including all patents for Solus Core, into this new entity. He has simultaneously leveraged Vance Croft with over $3 million in debt, which he plans to leave behind. He is, in essence, bankrupting our firm while stealing its core assets. There was a heavy, dangerous silence on the line. I see, Marcus said. He is not just robbing the bank. He is burning the bank down on his way out. Who is he selling this new entity to? A sovereign wealth fund in Dubai, I said. He has a meeting next week to finalize a $100 million seed round. He's pitching them my sustainable city designs. Another pause. The Royal Fund Al Jamil's group. Yes, I said. That's the one. A sound came from his end, a low, guttural noise of pure disgust. That little boy, that slick-haired $100 handshake boy, he thinks he can walk into a room with Mohammed Al Jamil and sell him your property. I was stunned. You know him. Know him. Marcus laughed, a dry, harsh sound. I've been playing poker with him at Davos for 20 years. Ilara, you don't understand. Al-Jamil is an old-world honor man. He is a Bedouin at heart. He can smell a fraud from a mile away. He despises being lied to more than he despises losing money. And Julian is about to walk into his tent and try to sell him a stolen camel. A plan began to form, sharp and bright. Marcus, I said, I need to get in that room. No, he said, cutting me off. You're not going near that room. I am. Here's what's going to happen. I am going to make a call. Not as your friend. I am going to call Al-Jamil's office as Marcus Dubois, interested investor. I am going to say I've heard rumors about a fascinating new green tech company called, what is it? Nexus Terra, I said. Nexus Terra. Hideous name. I am going to say I'm interested in their next round of funding. I'm going to ask to do my due diligence. I am going to ask for a private audience before this big meeting next week. And he'll give it to you. He'll give it to me, Marcus confirmed. And when he does, you are going to give me a one-page summary of this theft. Clear, concise. No emotion, just the facts. Julian is about to find out what happens when you bring a toy knife to a gunfight. I hung up, my heart hammering. I had a weapon. Now I needed an army. I made a second call. This number, I knew by heart. He picked up on the fourth ring. Petrov. Leo, I said. A beat of silence. Ilara, it's been a long time. Leo Petrov, the finest structural engineer I had ever known. A grumpy, brilliant purist who had been my right hand in the early days. The man who had helped me refine Solace Core. He had quit a year ago. Or rather, Julian had forced him out. Julian had called Leo negative and not a team player. Leo had called Julian a salesman in a suit who doesn't understand the first thing about physics. It had been a nasty, public fight. I had not stood up for Leo. I had tried to keep the peace. It was one of my deepest regrets. Leo, I don't have time to apologize, I said. Not properly, but I'm saying it now. You were right, about all of it. About him. Another silence. What did he do? He's stealing everything, Leo, all of it, Solace Core, the city designs. He's been planning it for more than a year. A long, slow sigh came through the phone. It was not surprise. It was grim, weary validation. That son of a bitch. I knew it. So, you're calling me as a witness? No, I said. I'm calling you as a partner. He has the old designs. He has the files for Solace Core, version 1. But he doesn't have what I've been working on for the last 6 months in my basement. He doesn't have version 2, and I need my lead engineer. There was no hesitation. Where are you? My home studio, Denver. I'm in Seattle. I'll be on the first flight in the morning. Send me the address. And Ilara. Yes. This time, Leo said, his voice hard. We build it our way. Leo arrived at 7 a.m., a rumpled, red-eyed engineer with a duffel bag in one hand and a thermos of what I assumed was pure caffeine in the other. He walked into my studio, took one look at the schematics I had pinned to the wall, and just nodded. Okay, he said. Solace Core 2.0. He stole the book, but you're already writing the sequel. Let's get to work. The next 48 hours were a blur. My basement studio, the one Julian had always dismissed as my hobby room, became a war room. We did not sleep. We ran on adrenaline and cold pizza, while Julian was upstairs, sleeping the sound, smug sleep of a man who believes he has won. Leo and I were dismantling his entire future. We registered a new shell corporation online. It took less than an hour. Aura Designs. I named it. I was the chief executive officer. Leo Petrov was the chief technology officer. He stole the code for version 1, Leo muttered, his fingers flying across a diagnostic program, testing the tensile strength simulations for my new formulas. But he doesn't know you fixed the polymer degradation issue at high temperatures, his desert city. It would have cracked in 5 years. He never understood the science, I said, my own hands drafting a new business proposal, the language precise, cold, and utterly compelling. He just saw the dollar signs. This new composite, Ilara, it's not just 2.0, it's 10 times stronger, and it's 30% cheaper to produce. He doesn't just have an obsolete product, he has a worthless one. Good, I said. Put that in the technical specs. While we worked, my phone was a silent, vibrating hub of activity. Camilla, in New York, was assembling the legal equivalent of an atomic bomb. She sent me a single text. The file is 100 pages. It's a work of art. I have a federal judge on standby. I just need you to say the word. I replied, not yet. Wait for my signal. Friday. On Wednesday night, Julian was practicing his presentation. I could hear him pacing in his office above us, his voice a low, confident murmur, rehearsing the theft of my life's work. Downstairs, Leo and I were finalizing the financial projections for Aura Designs, built entirely on the new, superior, and legally ours technology. Thursday morning, my phone rang. It was Marcus. It's done, he said, his voice clipped. You're in, but this is not a social call. You're not going in there as my goddaughter. You're going in as a businesswoman. When? I asked, my heart a cold, heavy stone in my chest. 10 a.m., Friday, his office. That gives you exactly 1 hour before Julian's meeting at 1 p.m. Al-Jamil is squeezing you in as a favor to me, but he is not a patient man. Do not disappoint me. Ilara, do not be emotional. Be a CEO. I won't, I said. Good, he grunted. Make him pay. That night, Thursday, was the final performance. Julian came into the kitchen. He had that insufferable, giddy glow about him, the one a child gets before his birthday. He was wearing his favorite suit, the one I had bought him after we won the Denver Civic Award. I can't believe it's tomorrow, he said, pouring himself a glass of water, his hands visibly shaking with excitement. You'll be amazing, I said. I heard my voice, a perfect imitation of a loving, supportive wife. It sounded like it was coming from someone else, someone far away. I'm just, Ilara, this is it. This is the biggest meeting of my life, of our lives. Everything I've been working for. It all comes down to this 1 hour. He looked at me, his eyes shining with a frantic, selfish energy. I just need you. I need your support. Just wish me luck. I walked over to him. I straightened his tie. His skin was warm. I felt nothing but ice. I looked up into the eyes of the man who had planned to destroy me. I smiled. It was the coldest thing I had ever done. Good luck, Julian, I said. I know you'll get exactly what you deserve. Friday morning, 10 o'clock on the dot. While Julian was, I presumed, selecting the perfect tie to go with his stolen suit, I was stepping out of an elevator into a private suite at the Four Seasons. Leo was at my side, his old leather satchel clutched in his hand. He looked like an out-of-place professor, which was exactly what I needed. The room was vast, with a floor-to-ceiling view of the entire city, but no one was looking at the view. At the far end of a conference table that could have seated 30, sat Mr. Al-Jamil. He was, as Marcus had described, immaculate, imposing, and radiating an aura of absolute stillness. He was not alone. He was flanked by 2 men in identical dark suits and 1 man who I instantly recognized as his chief legal counsel. They looked like they were carved from stone. He did not stand. He did not smile. He simply gestured to the 2 empty chairs across from him. Ms. Vance, Mr. Petrov, please. We sat. The silence in the room was a physical weight. No one offered coffee. Mr. Al-Jamil looked at a thin watch on his wrist, then at me. His eyes were dark and unreadable. Marcus Dubois is a man I respect. He called me personally, which he has not done in 3 years. He says you have an urgent matter. My schedule is tight. He has bought you 30 minutes. The floor is yours. I did not waste a single second. I did not apologize for the intrusion. I did not mention my marriage, my betrayal, or my pain. This was not a confessional. It was a hostile deposition. Thank you for your time, Mr. Al-Jamil. I am Ilara Vance, and this is Leo Petrov. I am here today as the CEO of a new entity, Aura Designs. I am also the inventor of the Soulless Core technology, which I understand you are evaluating this afternoon. I slid my briefcase onto the table and opened it. I removed 3 documents, bound in simple, professional blue. This, I said, sliding the first one across the polished wood, is the original foundational patent for Soulless Core. As you will note, it is registered solely in my name, Ilara Vance. It is dated 6 years ago, 2 full years before the incorporation of Vance Croft Designs. One of the advisors leaned in to look. Al-Jamil did not move. This, I said, sliding over the second document, is the business prospectus for Aura Designs. And this, I gestured to Leo, who placed his laptop on the table, is what we are here to show you. Leo opened the laptop. He did not speak. He simply ran the program. On the room's massive screen, 2 3D models appeared. At 1 p.m. today, I continued, my voice perfectly even, you will be presented with a plan to build your new city using Soulless Core, version 1. It is a brilliant material. I know, because I invented it. It is also, as of this morning, obsolete. I pointed to the screen. On the left, you see the thermal stress tests for version 1, the product Julian Croft is selling you. On the right, you see Soulless Core 2.0, a new formula developed by me in the last 6 months. It is 40% stronger, 30% cheaper to produce, and it entirely solves the high-temperature degradation issue that version 1 would have experienced in a desert climate. The room was silent. Al-Jamil's advisors were now whispering, looking at the specs on the screen. Mr. Croft is unaware of this new technology, I said, because he has been occupied. Al-Jamil finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. A compelling claim, Ms. Vance. But you are still partners. Why would he sell me an inferior product when a superior one exists? That, I said, is the crux of the issue. He is not selling you an inferior product. He is selling you a product he does not own. He is attempting to sell you stolen property. I took out my phone. I understand this is a serious allegation. I do not expect you to take my word for it. I am here to provide you with the final piece of due diligence for your 1 p.m. meeting. I placed the phone on the table and hit play. The room's audio system, designed for high-stakes calls, picked up the recording perfectly. I did not play the whole thing. I played only the 60 seconds I had prepared. Julian's voice, my husband's voice, filled the pristine silence. Just need the Dubai fund to sign. We can announce Nexus Terra, and we can leave her behind. Then, the critical part, those trust consolidation papers, they were perfect. They didn't just protect the IP, they transferred the patents, every patent for Soulless Core, moved seamlessly into a parent corporation that I am the sole officer of. She did not read the fine print. She handed us everything. Ilara. I pressed stop. The silence that returned was absolute. It was deafening. Leo and I did not move. We did not breathe. Mr. Al-Jamil's face had not changed. He held up a single hand, a stop gesture to one of his advisors who looked about to speak. He turned his head, just slightly, to his chief legal counsel on his left. He spoke too, short sentences in Arabic. The lawyer's face went pale. He looked at me, then at Mr. Al-Jamil, and gave one sharp, definitive nod. Mr. Al-Jamil turned his gaze back to me. It was the first time I felt the full, cold weight of his power. He could have been deciding on lunch. Thank you, Ms. Vance. Your presentation was illuminating. He checked his watch again. My meeting at 1 o'clock this afternoon with Mr. Croft and Ms. Hayes is still scheduled. I wonder, would you and Mr. Petrov perhaps be available to attend? I believe it will be very interesting. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the heavy doors of the conference suite swung open. Julian Croft and Sabrina Hayes entered. They were a vision of triumph. He wore the expensive dark gray suit I had bought him after he'd closed the Aspen deal a deal I now realized I had closed. Sabrina was in a stark, architectural white dress, her hair pulled back in a severe, professional style. She was no longer an accountant. She was a head of creative. They were smiling, sharing a private joke, high on the adrenaline of their impending victory. Julian strode toward the head of the table, his hand outstretched to greet Mr. Al-Jamil, and then he saw me. He stopped, mid-stride. His hand froze in the air. Sabrina, looking down at her phone, walked directly into his back. She looked up, her face a mask of annoyance that instantly curdled into sheer, blood-drained panic when she saw me and Leo sitting at the right hand of the man they had come to con. Julian's mouth opened. He looked from me to Al-Jamil, his face a sudden, ghastly white. "Ilara," he whispered. It was barely a sound. What are you doing here?" Before I could answer, Mr. Al-Jamil's voice sliced through the air. It was calm, polite, and utterly lethal. "Ms. Vance is my guest, Mr. Croft, as is Mr. Petrov." He gestured to their empty chairs. "Please, begin. We are all very eager to hear about Nexus Terra." It was not a request. It was a command. Julian looked like he had been shot. He stumbled to his chair. He fumbled to open his laptop, his famously steady hands shaking so badly he could barely plug in the projector. Sabrina sat beside him, rigid. Her eyes locked on the polished surface of the table in front of her. The presentation flickered onto the massive screen. It was my work, my renderings, my branding, the slides I had found in the NTD Day folder. "Go on, Mr. Al-Jamil said, his voice soft. Julian started. His voice was unrecognizable. It was thin, high, and cracked with nerves. "Nexus Terra," he stammered, "is a new paradigm in sustainable living." He was reading from the slides. The man who could charm a room of investors, the man who had lied to my face for years, could not form a coherent sentence. He kept glancing at me. I sat perfectly still, my hands folded on the table. My expression was neutral, polite. I was just a guest. He clicked to the 5th slide, the core of his presentation. "Our technology," he said, trying to regain his footing, "is proprietary, Solus Core. It is a revolutionary composite." I let him get 3 sentences in. Then I spoke. "Julian." He stopped, as if struck. The entire room was silent. I tilted my head, as if genuinely curious. "I'm sorry. I think I missed that part. You're the one who always handled the technical specifications. Could you just clarify for us? What is the precise polymer to aggregate ratio you're using in that mixture? I think I've forgotten." He stared at me. The question was pure, high-level engineering. It was a language he did not speak. He looked at the slide, then at Mr. Al-Jamil, then back at me. A dull, crimson flush was climbing up his neck. The technicals," he stammered, "are complex. It's a proprietary formula." Sabrina, sensing a total collapse, jumped in. Her voice was sharp, desperate. "What matters, Mr. Al-Jamil, is the market potential. The scalability, the projections for this technology are—" Mr. Al-Jamil held up a single hand. "Enough." The word hung in the air. "Absolute." Sabrina's voice died in her throat. "Mr. Croft, Ms. Hayes," Mr. Al-Jamil said, "your presentation is, as I said, impressive, but it has a fatal flaw." As he spoke, the doors to the suite opened again. soundlessly. The two security men who had been standing in the hallway stepped inside. They were large men. They did not look at us. They positioned themselves, one behind Julian's chair, one behind Sabrina's. Julian's eyes widened. A flaw I don't understand. The projections are sound. The flaw, Mr. Al-Jamil said, turning his cold, dark eyes on Julian, is that it is not yours. He paused. Let the word settle. Then, he turned his head and gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. To me, this was my cue. I stood up. He knows. Julian, I said. My voice was calm, clear, and carried across the room. He knows you're a thief. Alara, Julian whispered, his face ashen. I pulled out my phone. As of 15 minutes ago, so does the federal court system. Camila Russo just filed a 100-page suit against you, against Sabrina Hayes, and against your fraudulent shell company, Nexus Terra. Every account you control, including all of Vancecroft's assets and that new entity in Dubai, has been frozen by a federal injunction. Sabrina made a small, broken sound, like a dying animal. She slumped in her chair, the head of creative finally and completely gone. Julian's face went from white-hot panic to a deep, purple rage. The mask of the charming husband, the slick CEO, was gone. Underneath was something rotten, something feral. You, he snarled. He stood up so fast his chair screeched against the floor. The security guard placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. You bitch, you destroyed it. You destroyed everything we had it. It was ours. I looked at him, at this stranger I had loved, this man who had tried to erase me. I did not feel fear. I did not feel sadness. I just felt the cold, clean finality of the truth. No, Julian, I said, my voice steady. You destroyed it. I'm just cleaning up the mess. The security men did not wait for a command. The hand on Julian's shoulder became a steel grip, propelling him toward the door. Get your hands off me, he yelled, but his voice was pathetic, already defeated. The second guard took Sabrina by the arm. She was sobbing, a high, thin wail, making no attempt to walk on her own. He all but dragged her from the room. The heavy door clicked shut. The silence that descended was absolute, a heavy, clean vacuum. It was just the three of us again, Leo, Mr. Al-Jamil, and me. Mr. Al-Jamil looked at me. His expression was unchanged. He was a man who had just concluded a minor, distasteful piece of business. So, he said, his voice returning to its calm, even tone. Vancecroft is dead. I shook my head. I had not come this far to be a victim. No, Mr. Al-Jamil, it is not dead. It is being restructured. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out the final document, the one Leo and I had worked on for 48 sleepless hours. I slid the new proposal across the table. It was thin, precise, and bound in the same professional blue as my original patents. Aura Designs, I said, is already operational. Mr. Al-Jamil picked it up. He opened it to the first page. His eyes scanned the executive summary. He did not speak. Leo leaned forward, his voice for the first time filling the room. He was no longer the nervous engineer. He was the CTO. Mr. Al-Jamil, if you turn to page 3, you will see the technical specifications for Solus Core 2.0. What Mr. Croft was offering you was a beta test. What we are offering you is the finished product. The yield is 30% higher, the cost is 30% lower, and the thermal integrity is, well, it's perfect for a desert climate. Mr. Al-Jamil read, his face a perfect mask. He spent perhaps 5 full minutes reading. It felt like 5 years. Leo and I did not move. Finally, he closed the folder. He placed it on the table, precisely parallel to the edge. He looked at me. I detest thieves, Ms. Vance, and I detest, even more, having my time wasted. Nexus Terra was a waste of my time. Aura Designs, he tapped the folder, is not. My heart, which had been a cold stone all day, gave a single, painful thud. I will not be investing the $100 million I had planned to offer them, he said. The air left my lungs. I had miscalculated. I had won the battle but lost the war. I will be investing $250 million, he said. I stared at him. Leo let out a sound, a sharp gasp that he quickly tried to cover. $250 million. Mr. Al-Jamil continued, as if discussing the weather, for a controlling 51% stake in Aura Designs. With one condition, Aura will be exclusive to my projects in the Middle East for the next 5 years. We will build your city, Ms. Vance. We will just build it my way. He was not just giving me funding. He was buying me. But I was no longer the trusting artist. I was a CEO. And, he added, a final thought. This was the final twist. This was the moment I had not seen, the move I could not have predicted. My fund will also, as of this afternoon, acquire the entire debt portfolio of Vance Croft, all $3 million of it, which Mr. Croft so artfully created. I did not understand. Acquire. Why would you? Because, he said. My legal team will also be taking over all civil and criminal proceedings against Mr. Croft and Ms. Hayes. You will not spend $1. You will not sit in one more deposition. Your time is now my time, Ms. Vance, and I will not have it wasted in a courtroom. We will handle the cleanup. Consider it a finder's fee. He was not just buying my company. He was buying my freedom. He was erasing Julian's last, desperate attempt to hold me down, the mountain of debt. Leo and I looked at each other. He was pale, in total shock. I had to be the one to speak. I stood up. I extended my hand across the vast, polished table. Mr. Al-Jamil, I said, my voice clear and strong. You have a partner. He took my hand. His grip was firm, dry, and final. Welcome to Dubai, Ms. Vance. I walked out of that room. Leo followed, his face dazed. As we stepped into the elevator, my phone began to vibrate in my pocket, a frantic, buzzing energy. I pulled it out. Julian Croft. Incoming call. He was out. He was desperate. He was probably calling from a borrowed phone in a holding cell. I looked at his name. I watched it vibrate. Then, I pressed the button on the side of my phone. The buzzing stopped. I held the button down. I blocked his number. The elevator doors opened onto the sun-drenched lobby. I walked out of the hotel, away from the recycled air and the silent, high-stakes battles. I stepped onto the street, and for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I felt the sun on my face. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I would love to connect with all of you, so please comment below and let me know where in the world you are listening from. Share your thoughts, subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it a huge boost by hitting that hype button so this story can be heard by more people.